All right, odds are so high that you just jumped straight to this video because this video says troubleshooting on it, and you were like, I just want to learn just that. Because, why bother learning about why something doesn't work when you can just learn how to fix it? I know that like 99% of the time, turning something off and turning something on again is the answer, and that's still true with all Q-SYS stuff too. But for the 1% that you still need to actually care about why turning something off and turning on again matters, let's go through some very common pain points, some of the most frequently found issues that our service department gets. These are things that we get calls on all the time that are very, very common for us to say, hey, have you done this? Have you done that? Check this, check that. This should be your checklist of things to do before you call us, is kind of what I'm saying, all right? So if you've watched all the other videos in this training, this should act as a summary of what you've learned so far. If you jump straight here and I say things that you don't understand, well then you should go back and you should learn them. Okay, so what do you do when the thing doesn't work? You open up the help file. Help file is your friend, as I said earlier. This is your single source of truth. This is the best place to go. Open up the help file, look for your Q-SYS networking requirements. But let's face it, if you were gonna do that, you wouldn't be watching this video right now, would you? No, you're not a person who reads, you're a person who watches videos. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. So let's skip the help file and I'll tell you what you wanna know. So, some of the most common things for troubleshooting. Number one, gigabit network switches. Your switches have to at least be gigabit in order for us to get the speed that we need to transmit our audio, video, and control across the network. Next up, your QoS must be configured. That is quality of service. That is the prioritization protocol we talked about, where every single type of data gets a packet of importance, and we send it out through the network based on its importance. That way we make sure our clocks get out at the speed that clocks need to go out, and then everything is synchronized properly. Another common problem is people don't realize that if you're using network video devices, those do require PoE++. And PoE++ is, one of the features of the NS series switches, but if you are using like a PoE injector or some other switch and you don't realize that it doesn't have the PoE budget with PoE++ that you need, then those network devices are not going to work. So consider a normal Q-SYS device to be a hoverboard, but a network video device is like the pit bull version of the hoverboard. It needs more power if it's going to work on water, right? So PoE++ for your video devices. For doing video, when you're doing a lot of multicast video, you probably want to consider enabling fast leave on your switches. Multicast fast leave makes sure that the previous multicast stream stops before the new multicast stream is enabled. That makes sure there is not a small period of time when both multicast streams are going at the same time, which would flood the traffic to your device. What else? IGMP snooping. If you are doing multicast, which let's face it, you are if you're doing Q-SYS discovery protocol and clock synchronization package, then you are probably also going to require IGMP snooping. IGMP snooping makes sure that the devices that subscribe to multicast receive their multicast data, but one of the switches on the network has to be established as the querier that is responsible for actually doling out the multicast as it comes through. So again, IGMP snooping enabled on all switches, but only one switch should be configured as the querier for those switches. What else? Wi-Fi is fantastic, but maybe not for your Q-SYS system, all right? Don't upload a file across Wi-Fi if you can avoid it. Don't send audio, video, and control across Wi-Fi. All of your devices should be physically connected to each other. You can use Wi-Fi for the humans that are going to connect to your system. They can use a tablet, they can use their phone to control the system using a UCI viewer, but let's make sure we got a nice physical connection for everything that's actually part of the system. What else? Enabling LLDP, Link Layer Discovery Protocol. That can be very useful for device discovery, particularly when a device needs to identify its location on the network. So that can be important to enable. And once again, we do recommend, under the right circumstances, that if it is reasonable to segregate your QLAN audio and video island from the rest of the converged networks on your system, it's a good idea. If you can separate them, then all of your clocking protocols and things like that are going to remain isolated to your world and not have to fight with that corporate network. But again, there are pros and cons of doing this. Everything we're recommending here is generally going to fall in the sort of the 80-20 rule of Usually it's the right choice, but there's always some reason not to, right? So these are things to look out for. What about some things to avoid? What are the don'ts in this world? Well, first of all, don't allow jumbo frames. If you can disable jumbo frames on your network, jumbo frames are very large packets that run the risk of overwhelming your traffic bandwidth and maybe steamrolling the clock packets that we need to make sure are sending out at a particular cadence. So disabling jumbo frames on your network. Also, disabling spanning tree protocol, STP, on ports with Q-SYS devices. There are certainly reasons to have and remain STP on for other devices and on the trunk connection as well, but for your Q-SYS devices, those ports should probably have STP disabled. Similarly, we want to disable bandwidth throttling. We don't want the switches to be managing the speed of our traffic. We want to manage that ourselves. Next, no overlapping subnets. So if you have multiple NICs on your core, make sure that each of those cores are configured within their own subnet range that do not overlap. Next up, no dual gateways. Make sure that the core has one output to the rest of the world. If it needs to find an IP address that is not findable within its own range, then it's going to look for a gateway to find something else. That gateway of last resort should be one option only, not multiple options. Disable IEEE 802.3az. That is an eco-friendly protocol that is a way of turning off the PoE for devices when they have essentially gone idle. We don't want to enable that. We want to make sure that our network video devices are in control of themselves and their own power. They should not be listening to your switch. Your switch does not get to tell them when they are on or off. LAN A and LAN B on separate networks. Again, this may seem straightforward, but a lot of times it's just something you didn't check. Maybe you plugged in one of the cables into LAN B on the back of the switch rather than LAN A, and that helps explain why things are going wrong. What else? Do not feed the switch to Raptors. And I should really stress this. This isn't really because it affects the health of your system. It's really for the health of the Raptors. Once you train Raptors to feed on network switches, there really is no going back to having them feed on goats again. And you do probably, in most circumstances, unfortunately, have to put the Raptor down. So for their safety, please do not feed them switches. Next, minimize the number of switch hops. So 3 is the maximum expected number of hops from one Q-SYS device to the next. We try to avoid ever going above 5. If you can relocate your core, not necessarily geographically, but from a networking perspective, so that it is connected centrally within the topology of your network, that is the best thing to make sure that everything can get to the core and out again with as minimal hops as possible. And I mentioned this one in the last one, no optical network media converters. We don't want to do a converter from twisted to fiber, so we just want to avoid those if you can. Okay, so one thing that you can do to troubleshoot if your system is going poorly is you can find out what the traffic on the system is doing, right? You want to find out, hey, why am I not getting this traffic? Is this traffic showing up late? Is it showing up early? Is my clock synchronization going out at the right time at all? You can do a packet capture of your system. So in the later versions of Q-SYS Designer software, 9.8 or higher, you can go to the core's IP address /support, and you will see this page here. In earlier versions, 9.7 or lower, then you can go to the IP address /pcap_capture.html. And either way, you will get this option where you can essentially record the traffic that is leaving and coming to the core for a certain amount of time. And you specify what kind of traffic you're interested in, what sort of DSCP values you care about recording, and then you can take this information and investigate it. This is going to be sort of a Wireshark dump. You can take that information, put it into any of various different tools that will allow you to analyze it, and then you can find out really what is going on. If you see that your packets don't have the right priority headers on them, then you know QoS hasn't been assigned properly on your core, something like that. Getting a dump like this is going to be critical when you are really getting into the nitty-gritty of looking at what's happening on your network, and you can then give this information to the IT department or to us. If you're talking to us, we're probably going to ask for this. So knowing where to go to get this is very important. This is good for both networking issues and for VoIP issues. Also, if you are going to call us, this is one of the things we're most likely to ask for. If you go to the status block of your core or most peripheral devices as well, you can go and enable something called verbose mode in the properties. When it's in verbose mode, you're going to get this extra panel at the bottom of the control panel that gives you information about packet delivery, clock offsets, CPU cycles. Like, we know that we're sending 3,000 packets per second, and you can literally watch this in real time as your system's running, watching that count going up by 3,000, up by 3,000, up by 3,000. If you notice in here things like, oh, it has some listed as being delivered too late, then you know there's a problem. You know there's a network problem. Ideally, the overruns and the timeouts should be 0. If these are not 0, then now it's time to investigate how your switches have been configured, what's going on there. And once again, if you are going to be talking with us on, with our service technicians, this is something they're very likely to ask for. So getting the good housekeeping of turning this on automatically in your designs is not a bad idea. That way, if we need to come to you and say, hey, were there any overruns? You can say, no, there's not. I already have it here. I can say, hey, were there any doctor sources in your system? And you'd say, oh, sure, there's one right there. Didn't think he was going to come back, did you? But he's here. That's right, we had one more ready for you. And if you skipped this video, then you missed all of the setup for that joke. And you have no idea why there's a Doctorosaurus on screen right now. And you're probably thinking to yourself that your network, just like me, probably has some severe issues with it, but no one really knows why. And you're right. Other things that you can do is you can get a SIP log if you're diagnosing VoIP issues on your system. You can get this from the core manager as well. So just go to the core's IP address /sip.txt. Here you're going to be able to get your soft phone information. This is very similar to the Wireshark capture, but this is specific for your phone system. You can give this to the phone guy. It's talking in a language that the phone guy understands. So here's another great place to go. Check out our website if you need to get a more interactive guide on how to get this and exactly what to do with it. Beyond that, go to our support sites. Listen, you are probably the IT person in your own personal world. You're the person that your siblings call when something doesn't work, right? You already know what it's like to be on the receiving end of troubleshooting. So, we would recommend that you maybe consider that before you call us, you look to see if the answer is available online, the same way that you would probably prefer that your siblings Googled something before they asked you, right? So you can type into this knowledge base pertinent information about the situation that you're dealing with. And who knows, there may have been a recent case where someone had a similar issue and that issue has been solved. And you can find the information that will help you out of your problem without having to go through the issue of creating a case and getting all your information and sending us PCAP captures. Maybe the data is already there for you to just fix it. And that also means that we're more freed up to deal with cases that do need immediate issues rather than spending our time answering questions that have already been answered. So do please check out the knowledge base first. And then, after you've exhausted that as an option, create a case so that you can talk directly to us and we can help you find your way. I also mentioned this one earlier. The other place to go for help is communities. Developers.qsy.com is an entire website full of people like you that are probably just dying to talk about their installations or hurdles that they've jumped over or special cases, share code. If you go here and again type in the issue you're dealing with, then you may find the answer very quickly as well. So if you're not already logged in to developers.qsy.com, go and check it out right now. You'll probably have a good time. And with that, we're done. Thank you for sitting through all this. We hope this was useful for you. We realize it's a lot of information, and honestly, it's not even nearly as much information as we could go into. We do have some more advanced trainings in our Q-SYS Quantum series that does dive into some of these topics even deeper if that's where you want to go. But for now, the point of this series was to just arm you with the basic knowledge so that you've got good ground under your feet, that when you need to have that conversation with the IT department because they're saying, hey, our network's fine, and you're saying, I don't think it is, now you have the knowledge of what to say, hey, you know what? This is not configured properly. We do need to take a look at the networking issues, and then you can proceed forward from there. So good luck out there. We know there's a lot of networking to do in the world. Hopefully you're a little bit closer to getting yours done correctly. Thanks. See you next time.